Hey guys, welcome to the channel. Welcome to another video. It is the final round of Premier League fixtures before we head into the World Cup break. It is going to be a big weekend of Premier League football. No one, of course, wants to lose any game of football, but no one wants to really head into a break of the domestic calendar year, going in with a loss, without a win. So it is a massive weekend. Also, big weekend for teams that are chasing various things in the Premier League, whether you're chasing that top spot, whether you're chasing that top four battle, or whether you're trying to fight relegation. It is a huge round of fixtures that's coming up this weekend, and of course this is the video where I go through each and every single game, look at them, and also predict the outcome. Before we go any further though in doing that, I would like to remind you to please like the video and also subscribe if you are new. Both things are always and forever be greatly appreciated. But for now, let's get into the video. Alright, we're kicking things off with Saturday's lunchtime fixture. It is Manchester City hosting Brentford at the Etihad Stadium. Big game in prospect this one, because of course Manchester City will be looking to leapfrog Arsenal going into the World Cup break, but obviously that would depend on what Arsenal do this weekend. City come into this game off the back of a win. They of course won last time out thanks to a very late Erling Haaland penalty. And if he's back in the fold following his recent injury, that could spell bad news for Brentford. Brentford, of course, come into this game off the back of a 2-2 draw with Nottingham Forest last week. A bit of a poor result for them away from home, but at the same time, Forest have found a little bit of form at home in recent games, so 50-50 on that one. And we know that obviously Brentford's away form can be slightly worse than their home form. In saying that, of course, that does mean another away game for Brentford. They of course have the potential and the ability to cause City problems on the counter-attack. With the way that City set up, with the way Brentford would like to set up, there'll be some space on the counter-attack for Brentford's star players to obviously exploit and try to hurt City with. But of course it will all be about whether Brentford can stop City's attack. The likes of Phil Foden, the likes of Kevin De Bruyne, the likes of Riyad Mahrez, or whoever's out on that wing, Bernardo Silva, and of course Erling Haaland. Going to be tough for Brentford, of course it will be, there's no doubt about it. The early fixture obviously does resonate a bit of a difficult one to predict at times. This one could be similar. City haven't been that convincing in recent weeks, but have managed to get the job done on most of the occasions. In saying that though, you would expect City to win this game, which is why I'm going to go for a 2-1 City win. Next we come to a massive 3 o'clock game between Bournemouth and Everton. Huge game this one between two teams that are obviously lying just outside the relegation zone right now. You've got Bournemouth, who were involved in that 7-goal thriller last week, coming out on the wrong end of a 4-3 scoreline against Leeds United, whilst Everton also come into this game off the back of a defeat when they lost 2-0 to Leicester. Like I say, you don't need me to tell you this, but it's a massive game. Massive game for both teams. You look at the table, you look at the scenario at play, you look at how both teams probably could have got more points from certain games this season, but failed to do so because their defences aren't good enough, their attacks aren't necessarily good enough. But this game will be interesting, and it'll be interesting to see how both teams approach it. It'll be interesting to see, because obviously Everton away aren't that great under Frank Lampard. Bournemouth at home, could they feed off the energy of the crowd? Could the fact that this is also the last game before the World Cup break add something to the atmosphere? It's a massive game, this one, between two seemingly relegation candidates, I guess you'd say, looking at the things right now. Could this game be a big bag of nerves in which there's going to be plenty of mistakes? Could this be Everton's way of getting a big 3 points? Because let's face it, on paper you'd probably give the edge to Everton in winning this one. Or could Bournemouth, like I say, feed off the energy of the crowd and win this game whilst being at home? It's going to be a very interesting game to watch unfold before our eyes on Saturday at 3 o'clock. And in my opinion, my prediction for this game, I'm going to call it down the middle. I don't think it helps either side, but I'm going to call it down the middle, and I'm going to say that this game will end 2-2 come the final whistle. Next up, Anfield plays host to Liverpool, taking on Southampton. Liverpool, of course, come into this game off the back of a win, stopping the little rot they were on for the past couple of weeks in the Premier League, beating Tottenham by 2-1 on Sunday, while Southampton, of course, a new era begins for them. They lost 4-1 to Newcastle on Sunday, and not even 24 hours later, their manager Ralph Hasenhüttl was given the sack by the club. Of course, we've already seen this season that a new manager bounce can occur within teams. We have seen already that a new manager can instantly change the fortune of a club, even if it is only for one game so far. We saw it last week with Aston Villa under Unai Emery, of course. It's a bit of an unknown element to add to these types of games whenever you have a sort of new manager at the helm and in the dugout for a club, and that is what's going to happen in this game with Southampton. Of course, it adds a little bit of a a different and unique element to it. What kind of Southampton team is going to turn up? Is it going to be one that's going to be trying to fight for their place? Is it going to be a different one entirely? Or is it going to be the same Southampton that all season has been sort of close but no cigar, and at the same time poor in certain places? I have said time and time again that in these types of games in which you'd expect Southampton to get nothing out of, they tend to turn up and they tend to upset some teams and be a bit of a thorn in the big team side. But Liverpool at home, a Liverpool side that are of course hurting from losses to most recently to Nottingham Forest away, and obviously Leeds at home. It's going to be a big game for both clubs. Liverpool obviously want to make it back-to-back wins. Liverpool don't want to go into the international break, and with everything that's come out about the club, with how FSG are looking to sell the club and everything, they don't want to go into the break on a loss. They don't want to go into the break just wanting club football desperately to come back. They want to go into it with a bit of a win, bit more of a confidence boost, and I think they will get it here. As far as a result goes, I think at Anfield, the last game before the break, Liverpool fans are going to be up for it. They'll want to kind of reclaim or restart the kind of build on a home record once again that they had for many years, especially like Van Dijk when his record got broken against Leeds, of course. I think the Reds will get the job done. So that is why I'm going to go for a 3-1 victory in favour of Jurgen Klopp's side. Next up, we're at the City Ground. It is Nottingham Forest taking on Crystal Palace. It is Steve Cooper against Patrick Vieira. It's going to be an interesting battle to take place at one of Saturday's 3 o'clock games. Of course, last time out, Nottingham Forest picked up a point against Brentford in that 2-2 draw, whilst Palace left it very late on to beat West Ham by 2-1. Interesting game, this one. Obviously, in recent weeks, like I said earlier, Nottingham Forest have kind of turned the City Ground into a bit more of a stable kind of fortress for them. It's been interesting to see their kind of transition in recent weeks, and they've actually been, like I say, picking up a few points here and there, which has been interesting to watch. But this could be a very difficult battle against a very difficult side. Palace have been very good this season. Probably a little bit unfortunate not to have picked up more points, but Patrick Vieira's side are going about their business in a very solid and sort of without too much fanfare manner. Kind of goes a little bit under the radar, I think, a little bit, but I don't think they'll mind that as much. It allows them to just get on with their business, as it were. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see how both sides approach this one. You'd imagine that Forest will look to try and counter-attack Palace, let them have the ball, which obviously Patrick Vieira and Crystal Palace have been known for since he took charge. A different philosophy, a different ideology of how he wants to play his football. He wants Palace to have the ball. I think Forest will allow them. They'll try and defend, be resolute, keep their shape, and then look to pounce on the counter-attack when obviously the opportunity presents itself. Now, in terms of a prediction, look, a draw isn't out of the realms of possibility. It isn't also out of the realms of possibility for Forest to go on and win the game due to the atmosphere and everything, and obviously Palace having one of the most hostile grounds in the Premier League will obviously know that themselves, so they'll know what to sort of expect going into the City ground, where obviously the Forest support has been incredible this past year or so. But I've got to go with the form team, and I think Palace are just about the form team. They picked up some good points and some good performances and some good results in recent weeks. I also think they've got a very good defence, and I think that when their attack does turn up and is on point, I think they can be very difficult to stop. So I am going to go for a Palace win, and I'm going to say that they come out of this one as 2-1 winners. Next up, another one of Saturday's 3 o'clock games. It is Tottenham at home taking on Leeds United at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Another interesting battle set to play out in one of Saturday's 3 o'clock games. Tottenham, of course, come into this game on the back of a defeat. Their recent home form has taken a bit of a beating recently, and their latest loss to Liverpool last weekend wasn't what Antonio Conte would have wanted. Leeds, on the other hand, come into this game off the back of a bit of form. They actually did beat Liverpool a couple of weeks ago, and they followed that up with a 4-3 victory over Bournemouth last time out. An interesting battle set to go ahead. Like I say, for Tottenham, they want to get their home record back to winning ways. I think they've lost 3 games at home in the Premier League on the bounce right now. And whilst Leeds have obviously been a little bit more entertaining in recent weeks, and have actually got a bit more attention, a bit more eyes on them following a couple of back-to-back wins. Incredible wins at that, for different reasons. It's going to be an interesting battle. Tottenham definitely need to get back to winning ways as soon as possible. They want to maintain a strong hold on the top 4 going into the international break, of course, but it's going to be difficult against a Leeds side that, like I say, if they take the inspiration and the confidence and the performance level of their previous couple of games to this Tottenham side, they definitely can get at them. It's going to be about whether or not they can keep the likes of Harry Kane quiet, and obviously Dejan Kulusevski's back for the Spurs as well, so he's going to be a very creative influence for Tottenham. But Leeds can cause Tottenham problems of their own. Liverpool showed it last week, and other teams have shown it throughout the season. Tottenham have not been that convincing at all during this campaign. And until Conte realises that he has to take the shackles off a little bit and has to give them more freedom and more freedom to roam and to become more creative instead of rigid and defensive, maybe Tottenham's season may continue to be in this uninspiring, sort of underwhelming a little bit kind of manner. Having said that, you probably would expect Tottenham to have more firepower up front, which may give them the slight edge in this game, which is why I am going to say that Spurs get back to winning ways here. It isn't out of the realms of possibility for Leeds to get something from this game, but I think Tottenham may just have a bit more firepower up front to edge it, which is why I'm going to go for a 2-1 Spurs win. Next up, we're at the London Stadium. It is West Ham taking on Leicester City. Big game and prospect this one for both teams. West Ham, of course, been more missed than hit this season in terms of their consistency, losing last time out to Crystal Palace. Palace winning that game by 2-1 last Sunday. Whilst Leicester, of course, coming into this game on the back of a win, they started to pick up a few of those wins this season following what was a very poor start by their standards. But they managed to beat Everton last time out by 2-0. It's been a difficult season for West Ham. I think the David Moyes effect of the past couple of years is starting to really wear off. I think a lot of West Ham fans are now beginning to question how far he could have actually taken this team, how far can he take this team, and whether or not it may be time to part ways, go in separate directions, and maybe move on from David Moyes. He could be another manager that may be in a bit of hot water going forward. As for Leicester, as I say, following what was a difficult start, they managed to pick up a few wins in recent games. They've come back into the fold a little bit, and you probably would expect them now to go on to have a bit of a mediocre, middle of the road kind of finish from this point forward. In terms of this game, again, look, home crowd advantage might help West Ham a little bit here, but at the same time, I've got to go with the form team a little bit. Like I say, West Ham could definitely get something, but I think I'll go with the form team. I think Leicester are starting to put together a few wins and a few good performances right now, which is why I'm going to go for Leicester to win this game, and I'm going to go for a 2-1. I'll go for 2-1 again. 2-1 Leicester win. Next up to another intriguing game. Chelsea are making the away trip to Newcastle. It is Newcastle at St James's Park at home. Probably one of the most informed teams right now in the Premier League, taking on Chelsea, who of course have had a bit of a hit recently. You've got Newcastle, who last time out beat Southampton by 4-1. Like I say, they are in very good form right now. And they are going to be facing a Chelsea side who are coming off the back of this one, off the back of a 1-0 loss to their London rivals Arsenal. Big game in prospect. Newcastle flying high in third place. Chelsea still finding their feet a little bit under Graham Potter at Stamford Bridge and everything. I'm liking Newcastle right now. They've spent a fair bit of money, but they've not spent it crazy. They've not gone too mad and too overboard with it, obviously. They've been wise about it. They've been smart about it. And I think Eddie Howe has done a terrific job. Don't let money sort of overshadow the kind of job that Eddie Howe has done at Newcastle. He's been incredible. He's got some of them players that were seemingly bang average and poor over a year ago to be playing the best football of their careers. Miguel Almiron is in inspired form right now. He cannot stop scoring. Joe Linton is being solid. Obviously, he's brought back in Callum Wilson, who's doing very well right now. Bruno Guimaraes coming in as a transfer has been exceptional. It's just an incredible journey that Newcastle are on right now, and it's actually quite fun to watch from afar a little bit. It's obviously going to be a bit scary as obviously they continue to grow, but right now it's actually been interesting to watch everything unfold at St James's Park. And like I say, Newcastle are in red hot form right now, and I think they'll definitely fancy their chances of getting something against this Chelsea side, who in recent weeks haven't been that great, haven't been as on point as what we know they can be. They can be a difficult opposition for sure, but I don't know. I don't know whether or not they'll be able to get a win in this game. A draw possible. Newcastle, the form team, they've got one of the best, or maybe the best, defensive record in the Premier League right now, which is very interesting from Eddie Howe and Newcastle side, considering where they were over a year ago. This one is a very difficult game to call, and as much as I want to say that maybe Newcastle just about edged this one just because of the form they're in, I think I'm going to have to say a draw, and I will go for a 1-1 draw in this game. Jumping a little ahead now to Sunday's games, and first up, we are at the Amex Stadium. It is Brighton at home taking on Aston Villa. Two clubs with relatively new managers still finding their feet under their respected head coaches. You've got Brighton, who last weekend managed to beat Wolves by 3-2, a thrilling 5-goal encounter there in which Brighton just about managed to edge that and come away with the 3 points, whilst you've got Aston Villa, who began life under Unai Emery in the perfect way possible, coming out with a 3-1 victory over Manchester United in what was a rather surprising victory for Villa, but proving that once again Emery has Manchester United's number in a footballing sense. Look, interesting game, very interesting. Brighton at home were very tough to beat, even under their new manager. I know it's been a bit of an okay start, bit of a mediocre start by their standards, but they seem to be finding their feet a little more as the games go on. You've got Aston Villa, who will be still riding high of confidence following that win over Manchester United last weekend in the Premier League. This one could be very interesting to watch. It could be interesting to see how both teams set up. You would imagine Brighton, being the home team, will take the front foot, take the assertive leading this one, try and get the ball down, play some nice and attractive football. And you would imagine that Emery will take the more pragmatic approach, the kind of sit back, soak up the pressure, and look to try and hit them on the counter-attack, which with the players that they've got can definitely hurt Brighton on the counter-attack. As far as a prediction goes, look, it's very difficult to call, having new managers and everything. I think Brighton at home will be interesting. They definitely probably are the favourites to go on and win it, but I'm going to call it down the middle. I'm going to say that this game will end in a draw, and I'm going to say that this will end 1-1 come the full-time whistle. The penultimate game on this list sees Fulham play host to Manchester United at Craven Cottage. Big game in prospect this one, because obviously with the way that things are set up, United in the top 4 race, and obviously being dealt a bit of a reality check by Aston Villa last week, whilst Fulham have been a thorn in big teams' side this season, and obviously last weekend almost managed to get a point from Manchester City if it wasn't for a very late Erling Haaland penalty, of course, that managed to help City towards 3 points against Fulham last weekend. United, like I say, dealt a bit of a reality check, a 3-1 loss to Aston Villa. Both sides looking to get back to winning ways here. It's going to be interesting. You've got United, who have suffered with a bit of injury problems themselves. They are running on a bit of a thin squad by all things considered, and that's not to make any excuses. They genuinely have got injury problems and concerns and everything. They'll be looking to get to the international break where they can recuperate, reflect on what has been somewhat of a successful or somewhat successful sort of opening to the new season, to the new era under Erik ten Hag. Whilst Fulham, of course, have probably performed way above expectation that many people were expecting, and have actually gone on to do pretty well so far on their return to the Premier League. Interesting game. You've got Fulham's very direct and physical approach. You've got the home crowd advantage as well. It's going to be very hostile when United come in to this one. Obviously, this is a historically decent Premier League fixture when you go through the history of it. And obviously, you've got United's approach, which will be to try and press high, try and press and press and press and try and win the ball back high, and obviously look to counter press and hit Fulham where it hurts. Going to be very interesting to see this game, because obviously of two different styles of play. As far as a prediction goes, look, United obviously are the favourites. They've got the match winners at their disposal, but don't rule out Fulham. And especially after seeing what happened last weekend with United against Villa, this one has definitely the potential to be a bit of a banana skin. And after what Fulham have done to the likes of Liverpool this season, and also been a bit of, like I say, a thorn in the side of many of the other big clubs, although they may not have got anything from those games, they have been difficult to beat. Don't rule them out of getting something, and that is why I'm going to go for a draw, and I'm going to say that this game will end 2-2 come the final whistle. And finally, we're going to jump back to Saturday night encounter at Molineux. Arsenal are making the trip to Wolves. Wolves against Arsenal, an interesting viewing for your Saturday night pleasure. Wolves obviously come into this game off the back of a defeat. They lost 3-2 to Brighton last weekend. You've got Arsenal, who are currently top of the table and looking to stay that way as we head into the World Cup break after their 1-0 victory over Chelsea last week. Look, this one should be a foregone conclusion in my opinion. Arsenal should be winning this game, but obviously, like I say, it's never a foregone conclusion in football. Don't rule out Wolves from making it difficult for Arsenal, from getting something from this game. It is a home crowd advantage for Wolves. It is obviously a game in which Wolves can spring a surprise. It is a potential banana skin for Arsenal to slip on, but with the way that Arsenal are playing, and not just in the way that they're playing going forward, but obviously in the way that they're playing defensively as well. They, again, I think they're joint with Newcastle on being the best defensive record so far this campaign. Don't rule them out from getting something, but at the same time, like I say, Arsenal are very good going forward. They're solid defensively. They are seemingly gaining more and more confidence by the week as games go on. It will be interesting to see if they can hold on to top spot going into the World Cup break. Obviously, it depends on what happens this weekend. Arsenal hold the advantage in that respect, and I think Arsenal have got probably, I'll probably jinx it now I've said it, but probably the easier of the two games between them and Manchester City. But like I say, don't rule out Wolves, but at the same time, Arsenal should be winning this game. Arsenal have got a very good attack. Arsenal have got a very solid defence, and they've got a midfield that is actually working well together and actually helping them to win plenty of games for them this season. So, going to be an interesting battle, this one. I would expect Arsenal to completely dominate possession, shots, everything else that goes along with it. Wolves will be looking to counter, they'll probably be looking to take shots from distance, things like that, with the likes of Ruben Neves within their ranks. But Arsenal will get the job done. That is why I'm going to go for a 2-0 Arsenal win. But of course, as I always say, these are just the thoughts, comments, opinions, predictions, feelings, whatever you want to call it, of this guy. I want to know what you guys think. What do you make of this weekend's upcoming round of Premier League fixtures, the final round before obviously the World Cup break? What do you make of the fixtures? What are your own analysis of them? What are your own predictions? Because obviously, most of all, this is obviously a predictions video. So what are your predictions on the upcoming games that are set to be coming up this weekend? I'd love to know your thoughts, your comments, opinions, predictions, feelings on everything to do with that down below in the comments section. I'm sure it'll make for interesting reading. Also, fantasy football managers, who do you see having a good week? Who do you see having a bad week? Who are you putting into your squad? Who are you taking out of your squad? All of that will make for interesting reading as well. Otherwise, hit the like button on the way up. Enjoy the video. Subscribe if you're new. Want to see more content like this. Both things are always and forever greatly appreciated. And as always, thank you all so much for watching and listening. I've been Fletch. This has been another Fletch Talks video. I'll see you all again soon in another video.